Jared Dillian. Own your money, own your life.
I'm Jared Dillian. This is the Jared Dillian Show. If you want to call to talk about your money, please call 844-305-7800. That's 844-305-7800. This is the Jared Dillian Show. You can also go to my website, which is jareddillianmoney.com. That's jareddillianmoney.com. Or you can follow me on Twitter at DailyDirtNab. There's a kid in the Netherlands. His name is Laurent Simons, age 9, who is in college. He's a prodigy. He's studying electrical engineering at the Eindhoven University of Technology in the Netherlands. And he was about to graduate, but some dispute between the university and his family erupted, and now he's leaving the university. That's not the interesting part of this. I knew a kid that was 9 years old that was a child prodigy, and I was in a class with him. I was 15, and he was 9, and I was studying probability and statistics in the summer. And a 9-year-old kid, pretty amazing stuff. Property taxes are the worst kind of taxes. You know what's funny? I actually wrote. I've written a couple of editorials on taxes for Bloomberg, the Bloomberg opinion page, and I'm an anti-tax person, and I like to write about the SALT cap, right? So this is basically in the Trump tax reform of 2017. They put a cap on state and local income tax deduction and property tax deductions of $10,000. And basically, you had people in New Jersey and Connecticut and New York that were deducting $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 off their taxes from property taxes and state income taxes. And this capped it at $10,000, which meant it was a huge tax hike. Tax hike on the rich, I might add. In people in New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, and it made it more expensive to live there. And people have been fleeing those states, and it's really, lots of out-migration out of these states. It's really amazing. And I was, so I got an email from somebody on the staff of Representative Bill Pascrell, who I think is 82 years old. He's a Democrat in New Jersey, and he kind of introduced, he didn't kind of, he introduced legislation to repeal the cap on state and local taxes deductions. And it's a little disconcerting because, it's clear that I ended up on a naughty list somewhere. I wrote these editorials, and now this Democratic congressman is emailing me. And it's not really a fight I want to get into. But having said that, there's no chance that this is going to pass. And basically, property taxes in particular, property taxes in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut are very high. They're extremely high. They're highest in Westchester County, New York. It's not uncommon to have a house that's not that expensive with property taxes of $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. It's real. New Jersey, very common to have houses with $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 in property taxes. Connecticut, same thing. It's a lot of property taxes. That's a lot. Property taxes on my house, $4,000. Okay. That's real. That's real money. What would you do with an extra $30,000 a year? And you used to be able to deduct it on your federal return, and that would offset it somewhat, but now you can't. So, and again, it kind of brings up an interesting question as to why? What is the purpose of deducting something off your taxes? I'm not really sure. You deduct business expenses, you deduct mortgage interest, but why should state and local taxes be deductible? Philosophically, I'm not really sure. But property taxes are the worst kind of taxes because if you think about it, let's say you pay off the mortgage on your house. So now you are debt free. You can even get rid of your insurance. You don't have to have insurance on your house, but you still have to pay the property taxes, which means you don't own the house. The government owns the house. If you have to pay the government to keep your house, if you don't pay the taxes, they'll take the house. It kind of sounds like you don't own it, and that's disturbing. And, Elizabeth Warren, when she was talking about her wealth taxes, the point that she made, she's like, we kind of already have wealth taxes. We have property taxes. It's not quite the same. In fact, it's very different. But I kind of see what she's saying. So you know what kind of taxes are the best kinds of taxes? Sales taxes. Sales taxes are the best kinds of taxes because you want to tax spending, you want to tax consumption because you want to encourage people to save money. Sales tax, if it were up to me, we would have no income taxes. I would repeal the income tax. We would have no property taxes. We would have no estate taxes. We would have no any kind of taxes. All we would have is sales taxes, which would be high of 25%. And we would live in it would be like Oz. It would be magical. Because if you tax something, you get less of it. And, people don't, it's not, when you talk about inequality, it's not really it's not the income that people object to. Like nobody, I guess there are people, especially nowadays, but people really don't, they're not deeply offended by the amount of money that somebody makes. They're offended by the amount of money that somebody spends. So if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, who has $70 billion, like he bought a $300 million yacht. Now, that's kind of gross. Now, if you had a 25% sales tax on a $300 million yacht, then you would have paid $75 million in taxes. And by the way, sales taxes are almost impossible to avoid. They're very hard to avoid. They're almost impossible to avoid. They're easy to collect. This whole wealth tax thing, we're going to spend more collecting these taxes than we are going to collect in revenue. So, yeah. Property taxes are bad. Property taxes are bad. You don't own the house. The government owns the house, and you are renting it. Property taxes are fine if they're low. Like, for me, like $4,000 property taxes. Like, I don't want to say I'm happy to write the check, but I would say that it's fair, right? It's a fair tax. But if I had $40,000 in property taxes on my house, I would not be happy to write that check. Now, for a lot of people, they escrow the property taxes, so it goes in the mortgage payment. The only time I ever escrowed my property taxes was in my first house back in California like 20 years ago. And ever since then, I've just written a check. Like, when I was in New Jersey, it was once a quarter. Now it's once a year. So I write a check once a year. So, I feel it, right? I feel the property taxes. The house I had in New Jersey, which it was about a $400,000 house, had $14,000 in property taxes. And, I owned that house for 7 years. The property taxes were $6,000 when I bought the house, and they went to $14,000 in 7 years. I think they're even higher now. It's insane. There are lots of houses in Connecticut, New Jersey, New York with $20,000 to $30,000 in property taxes. I actually knew a case, a friend of mine, a guy who had $69,000 in property. 69, and it was not. It was a nice house, but it was like not a mansion or anything. This should be obvious, but high property taxes reduce the value of your house. And this happened to me personally. Like I said, my house in New Jersey, the taxes went from 6 to 14. When the taxes were 14, I listed my house for sale, and I couldn't get any buyers because the taxes were too high. And I had to lower the price of the house. And this is what's happening in the tri-state area, is the property values are going down in order to induce people to buy these houses, which have property tax burdens of $30,000. So if property taxes go up, the value of your house actually goes down. I took a loss on that house. I took a $60,000 loss on that house. You can also appeal your property taxes. Don't call in and ask about that, because I don't really know how that works. My mom just did it, and I think she did it successfully, but we're talking about small amounts of money, and I don't know how to do this. When you are shopping for a house, look at the property taxes. If the property taxes are higher than comparable houses, then you have to factor this into your decision. You also might want to know the history of property taxes, if they are going up, if they are going down, if they are staying the same. Property taxes are also high in Texas and New Hampshire because there's no income taxes and the state has to get its money somehow. Property taxes generally pay for schools, and if you don't have any kids like me, then you're paying for other people's kids to go to school, and I just try not to think too hard about that. In South Carolina, property taxes might be the lowest in the country. I mean, it's exceptionally low. It's laughably low. The last house I had before this one, the property taxes, when I started, were like $900 a year. Not per month, per year. I'm not complaining at all. Make sure you look at the property taxes when you are buying a house. Ask the question. You don't want to get a nasty surprise. And remember, appealing is an option. I'll see you next week. I'm Jared Dillian. This is The Jared Dillian Show.
The Jared Dillian Show.